All right. Mr. Balestrieri.
Balestrieri.
Balestrieri. Okay.
All right. The world calls me Louis B. It's just so much easier.
Louis B. All right. So for the audience that doesn't know you, please introduce yourself.
My name is Lou Balestrieri. I'm a retired New York City police detective. I grew up in streets of Brooklyn. I had a very illustrious career working on patrol and in uniform, and I was promoted to detective in the narcotics division after 6 years, which is pretty fast for a cop. And then from there, a joint federal task force was opened up called HIDA back in 1991. And I had a very, very strong background in Asian organized crime. I applied for the job. Being involved in Asian organized crime, I wanted to be involved in the Asian heroin team. After they learned of my background, they asked me if I would like to be an undercover, which is a completely volunteer position. I didn't have to do that because it's very, very dangerous. So I agreed to do it, and they agreed to promote me to a higher grade of detective. And I worked for 2 solid years, a little bit more than 2 solid years, about 28 months in an undercover capacity where I never went to police facilities. When I went to court, it was always into a back door. I was identified by a number. All of my information was removed from the police computers. And I worked in a complete covert capacity. The name of the game I played was an organized crime associate's nephew, because this guy I knew had lots of nephews, and he was in the restaurant and nightclub business. So it was just very easy to use his name, and that's how I got over. If anybody ever checked, oh, it must be one of this guy's nephews, because this guy had a lot of nephews, and I got over like a fat rat, and it worked out really well. From there, I was banging heads with the lieutenant that I worked with, and we had a disagreement on how things should operate. And he was the lieutenant, and I was the detective, and they launched me out of the team. And what they did was they put me in a traditional Italian organized crime team, which I didn't want to be in, because they knew my background. They knew I knew a lot of organized crime guys, in that I went to school with them. And, my father's family had organized crime guys in it. My father had a true Sicilian godfather known as a Zip, who did a lot of time in jail. And, it was around me all the time. And I didn't want to be there. So for punishment, they stuck me there. And I don't know what their reason was. It was maybe either get me hurt or to make me screw up or try to blame me. I don't know what the reason was. From there, I stayed there for a little while. I was successful. And then they put me in a team called Headquarters Team Number 1, which was involved in covert investigation involving organized crime control over the private sanitation industry, which was a multi-million-dollar industry that had been controlled by organized crime for more than 50 years. Now, this was a punishment team. This was the Bad News Bears, okay? We were a bunch of guys, all good detectives, that did something wrong, and then we all hated each other because we couldn't get out of the team. And at some point in time, this particular team started to do this case so well that we grabbed a fire-breathing dragon by the tail, so to speak. And that's the reference my sergeant, who's now passed on, gave us. And he says, listen, we're either going to continue to be the Bad News Bears and the laughing stock of the unit, or we're going to take this to its finality. So as men and women, we got together, we made a pact, and we ran this case, and it wound up being the largest organized crime case in the history of New York law enforcement. Altogether, we locked up 32 organized crime guys, soldiers, associates, and even a capo who I personally arrested. We took in $271 million of their money. We crushed 27 organized crime control private sanitation companies, and this was just a phenomenal feat. When we took the case down, Rudy Giuliani, And then Police Commissioner Bratton promised the entire team that we were going to be promoted, which is, we were high-fiving each other. We was phenomenal. It was fantastic. We made history here. And that never came to pass because Rudy Giuliani and Commissioner Bratton had a falling out. Bratton left, and Rudy Giuliani, as I understand it, burned all of his promised promotions. We call them contracts. And I left the job. I was injured on the job. I lost the tip of my elbow and crushed my ulnar nerve, and I lost 30% use of my arm. And the New York City Police Department never bothered even to take care of me. So I left a very distraught human being. And after years on end, what's going on now is all of these wise guys are coming out of the closet telling their stories about their careers. We have Sammy the Bull. We have Larry Mazza. We have Mike Francesi. These are all guys that I know of. Some guys I know personally. And they're telling their story. So I got an idea. I grabbed my partner and I said, listen, why don't we tell our story? And that's what we did. We came out and we made a movie about Operation Wasteland, and we told the cop side of the story, and that's what this is all about, Operation Wasteland. And I've hooked up somehow or another with, Henry Hill is. Henry Hill's wife is a young lady by the name of Lisa Caserta. And Lisa has taken me under her wing, and she believes in me, and she has molded me into this person. She says, listen, you play both sides of the fence, and a lot of people have to hear your story and who you are and what you are. And that's what I'm doing. I'm doing podcasts. I'm enjoying it. I have a book coming out. I still have my partner. He does podcasts with me as well. His name is Victor Fiabani, beautiful human being. I'm working as co-host with William Steele, on True Crime, Mafia Mondays. And I'm just having a great time. Now, a guy like you reaches out to me, I enjoy the hell out of this. And if I could help you grow, that's what I'm here for.
I appreciate it.
You got it, brother.
So, you lived a very unique life from start to finish, right? You were around organized crime. You were around a lot of people that were associated with people that were doing or that were directly involved with organized crime.
Correct.
And everything that came with it. So, with that being said, growing up, what was the most important experience that you can remember growing up around organized crime?
Okay. One of the things that I like about organized crime, now don't get me wrong, I'm not an organized crime enthusiast or what have you. I'm not a member of organized crime. I was never a made member. I did things growing up that I shouldn't have done, that I didn't think were illegal. I just thought I was helping out, my neighbors or what have you. I didn't kill anybody. I didn't get involved in drugs. That wasn't my thing. I wasn't beating up people and taking their property. But, I did things that were a little off base. What I learned about organized crime is they have respect. Or at least I grew up around respect. Everybody that I met was my uncle. Whether they were or they weren't, in Italian, when you call somebody your uncle, that's a very, very high honor. My friends' kids call me Uncle Lou. And that's called respect. That's one of the things that the New York City Police Department doesn't have, and they never will have. They eat their own. And that's what I couldn't. I respected my bosses and what have you. And, I would never be a rat. And respect is the key thing that I learned. Also, some of the tactics I learned from them, I used throughout my whole life. I learned how to control the controllers, because when you control the controllers, you become control. You're in control. And that's what I learned how to do. One of the ways I did this was you had, there was a form called a 28, a UF 28, I believe was called, which was a leave of absence form, a uniform force 28 form. Now, if you wanted to get a day off, you went to the roll call girl and you filled out a 28. What I did, and other people did this as well, I was taught how to do this. I made the 28 a 38. And they said, what the hell are you talking about? What I did was I took that 28 and I put a $10 bill underneath. Follow what I'm saying? So the girl got a $10 tip, and then I controlled her. And I bought her lunch as necessary. I bought her bagels in the morning. I kept her in the pocket. So I always knew I had her under control. When I went down to the courthouse, you could get stuck there for 3 days sleeping on the floor because you had to get your supporting affidavit typed up by these female typists. You saw the assistant district attorney, and sometimes it took hours to see him or her, and then it went to typing. When it went into typing, they typed up the affidavit, citing the law, the crime, and so on and so forth. And then you went back to the assistant district attorney, and you had to sign it in front of him. You're swearing to it. What I made sure I did was I had those girls in the pocket. I controlled them because before I went down there, I would say, all right, Louis B., I'm coming down. Who's hungry? And I buy everybody lunch or dinner or whatever I was doing. This way I was a fixture there and people know me, and I could get in and out in 10 minutes or I could stay there for 10 hours because I control the controllers. So that's an organized crime tactic. Another thing I did, and I will continue to do this, is I make marriages. Okay. Let's say you're out looking for a car and you wanted to buy a new Caddy, and I got a friend who sells Cadillacs. What I do is I put you guys together. I do both of you a favor. He sells a car, you get a car. Now, guess what? Both of you owe me subconsciously. So now I got two markers to call in when necessary. That's what I learned about organized crime. Those are the things I still took with me. Some of them I practice today.
So at its core, right,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to everything of just being around organized crime, right, what is organized crime motivated by at its core? Like at the essence of the organized crime, organized criminal organizations, what are they motivated by?
Money, power. That's the key thing here. If you study it, well, many people don't know this. The Mafia was originally called Il Mano Negri, and they started in a town called Castellammare di Golfo in Palermo, in Sicily. And then they migrated out to Palermo as well. Now, you don't have the same mafia in Naples. They have the Camorra. They're organized crime, but they're run the same way, but they're a little different. Okay. Now, originally, organized crime was the townspeople who got tired of being bullied and so on and so forth by some of the corrupt politicians in the village or whatever the hell went on. Now, my grandmother came from Castellammare di Golfo. My grandfather came from Palermo. So I got this from their mouths growing up. And that's how I learned about this. As time went on, these guys, some of the townspeople got together and they took this over. Okay. And they were controlling the corrupt politicians. And then they says, you know what? This is pretty good. And then before you know it, they extended this and they started to control everything. And is it corruption? Absolutely. But I can say this, there isn't anything in and about the New York metropolitan area that makes money that doesn't have an organized crime tax on it. You're paying somehow or another. Now, it's unfortunate that gets passed on to the consumer, but that's what organized crime is all about. Some of the things they do, I completely disagree with, but other things that they do, I understand. If that answers your question.
It does. Yeah. So now going forward, what do you think the most important thing? Living like everything that you've lived, right? What do
Mhm.
you think the most important thing that you've learned living everything that you've done? What do you think that the most important thing that you've learned is?
Pertaining to being a cop or pertaining to being in and around organized crime?
Both.
Okay. I was a very different kind of cop, so to speak. I was doing things growing up that I shouldn't have done. And I had a very, very close call to being arrested. And the guy that was involved with me was arrested and he did 7 years. He didn't rat. And I says, this is not for me. I don't want to, I don't want to, I don't like the pension plan here with this organized crime stuff. And I don't like the health benefits program. So I says, I'm going to stop doing this. And I became a salesman in an insurance company. And as I got there, what I started to do was study weakness, because that's what organized crime guys do. They look at weakness and they learn how to capitalize on it. And what I did was I started doing organized crime things when I was within the insurance company. I wasn't stealing, but I knew how to manipulate people. If you were the benefits consultant for a big company, 500 employees, I hit on you, whatever. And we tried to, I'm trying to sell you my product, and I take you out to lunch, and then I take you to a whorehouse where, I got you cleaned up a little bit, so to speak. And I was trying to persuade you to take my product. Now, once you went along with that, you're going to like it. That's number one. Number two, I got to, I'm swinging a big sword over your head because I got you by the short hairs, so to speak. And that's just not the right way to do business. It's a corrupt way to do business. And then one day, I had taken a lot of the police tests and what have you. I was dating somebody whose father was a retired detective, and my father was a retired cop. And I knew what I was doing wrong, and they tried to persuade me to straighten up a little bit. I've never been arrested, and I took police tests because I decided I was going to get married, and I wanted to have a solid foundation and make a clean living. And one day I got a phone call. I became a cop. And once I became a cop, everything that I once did, I threw in the garbage. And the type of cop I was, I didn't do anything. I never took money. I didn't fool around with drugs. I didn't shake people down. I never took money from a dead body or anything that nobody would know. It's called character. And that's one of the things I prided myself at doing. I had 6 opportunities to take a human life as a cop, and I didn't do so. And I'm very proud of that. Did I kick a lot of asses? Absolutely. If you stepped off base with me, it was a slap-around extravaganza. I was going to put the handcuffs on you while you're standing up or while you're on the floor with me doing the sadist dance on you, so to speak. Once my handcuffs are on you, nobody disrespected you. No other cop was going to hit you. You were my prisoner. And those are the rules that I ran with. In terms of organized crime, what I learned from them is everybody's got what's the word I'm looking for? Everybody can be made, so to speak. You can take them to a certain point where you're going to control them. It's either going to be done with money, or you're going to set them up to be in a position where you're going to control them. You'll catch them doing something wrong, or you put pressure on them. Or I'm not saying that's right, but that's what make the world go round. Like I said, organized crime controls everything in the New York metropolitan area, and you got these young guys that are up and coming. that are looking for weakness. And when they find that weakness, they become earners. They start to make money. And then they take that back to their bosses, whoever they are. And hopefully one day they get made and they have their own crew. And it's a big pyramid thing. It's money about money and power about power.
What do you think from living the life that you've led? What do you think the biggest regret that you have is?
Being a cop. Um, I should have taken a different path in the police department. I should not have gone into the Organized Crime Control Bureau. I should have gone into what's known as the Detective Bureau and done regular cases, working in a detective squad, doing robberies and homicides and that kind of stuff, and being out there meeting with people. The stuff I did in the Organized Crime Control Bureau, you didn't even know I was out there. I was carrying, I had a car that nobody knew about. Everything I did was covert, and I lived for my cases. I didn't know what I was doing tomorrow till the end of my tour today. I had equipment in my car, $3,000 photo lenses, and we did real good stuff. But in the end, we worked as a team, and we got screwed as a team. Whereas if I worked in the detective squad, in the detective bureau, I think I would have done a lot better being aggressive there, because it's solely based on my performance and not the performance of a whole team. So the regret that I have is going into the Organized Crime Control Bureau and then let them lie to me, saying that they were going to promote me for being an undercover, which is a lot of risk involved, and I got nothing out of it. If that answers your question.
So without changing what actually happened in your life, without directly changing it, what would you tell your younger self?
In today's world, being a cop is a thankless job, especially with what's going on now. Defund the police, and you don't have public support, and you have I don't know which side, I don't care if you're a Democrat or a Republican. You believe what you believe in, and you vote the way you want to vote. But we need to have law in society. And if you're going to get rid of that's no good. I would not allow my son to become a New York City cop. What I made him do is take a federal job where he's in CBP, Customs and Border Protection. He works in an airport. He doesn't have to deal with people rolling around on the floor, making arrests, beating people up, and worrying about who's got the cameras on you and this and that. To be a cop, it's a you have to use force. You have to learn how to use force, and when you have a department that doesn't stand behind you, sometimes we have to make decisions that are made in a nanosecond, and sometimes they're right, sometimes they're wrong. And then you have a million people putting you under a microscope when they've never been a cop, they've never been scared, and don't know what it's like to be scared. Fear does horrible things to you. And I have to say, in my career, I was never afraid of guns and this and that. And I was afraid 2 times. I did undercover drug buys at gunpoint. I had a guy put a butterfly knife to my throat. I had guys throw cinder blocks off the roof at me. I was never afraid. Okay, my captain took me off the post because he knew the drug dealers were going to try to kill me. But I didn't care. I wasn't afraid. I was going back the next day. And he had to take me off a post that I was on when somebody tried to shoot me. But fear does horrible things to you. Okay, I was I hung off the Williamsburg Bridge. If you know the Williamsburg Bridge, it brings Brooklyn and Manhattan together. And we had a jumper, and me and this other guy, we were half on the bridge, half off the bridge with no ropes. We didn't know if he was going to jump, not jump. We were struggling, and we pulled him in. We saved him. I was petrified. I don't like heights. And to fall off that bridge was not too good. Another day, we had a woman that was, I was working with another guy. He happened to be a Chinese cop who I admire more than anything. We had a lady get thrown in front of a train by a guy who tried to steal her pocketbook. And her arm was severed, and she was lying in the middle, in between the two tracks. And this guy, I'll mention his name. His name is Jin Yi. He's my hero. He crawled underneath the train, went in between the tracks, crawled on his belly, got to the lady, gave her psychological aid, told her it's going to be okay. We're here. Her arm was severed, hanging off. I crawled down underneath that train with the electricity on, and I panicked. I'm telling you, I was petrified beyond petrified, to the point where I couldn't operate. I was shaking. And what I did was I went up. The NYPD radios did not work in the subways at the time. This is around 1986. And what I had to do was go up to the street and transmit and run a whole operation to get transit police down there, to lift up the train, to get the lady out. And then I closed off a bunch of streets in 3 different precincts, and we got the lady to a hospital where they saved her arm. We saved her life. And then about 3 days later, we went to see the lady in the hospital, just because of who we were. And this kid was Chinese, the lady was Chinese, and they could speak, they could converse. I don't know what they were saying. We went to the hospital. None of the family or this lady ever said thank you to us. Welcome to being a cop.
So to end this off, what advice do you have for young people?
What do I want?
To end it off, what advice do you have for young people?
Respect your parents, respect others. Okay. I don't judge people by their race, the color of their skin. I judge them by the way they treat me. I never arrested somebody because of their color, because of their race. I arrested them by the crime that they are committing. Go to school, get an education. If you don't want to do that, that's okay. Some people are horrible at the books. Get a trade, become an electrician, become a carpenter, give back to society. And also, you never stand so tall as to when you stoop down to help another human being. Okay, I just love people in general, and that's who I am. When I was a cop, my dad taught me everybody is a somebody. Okay, and that somebody is important to remember their family. If you take them out of the picture, you're going to hurt them immensely. There's somebody's mother, somebody's sister, somebody's brother. So there's somebody to somebody. And by them not being there, they're going to hurt. So, just remember what you do. Remember how you treat these people. I treated people with respect. I commanded respect, but I showed respect in return. When you didn't give it back to me, I became a different person. And that's who I am. I operate with character. That's what you have to have, character. You got to believe in the law. You got to obey the law, and the law is only as good as the people that abide by it. If you want to defund the cops, it's, in my opinion, it's one of the toughest jobs in the world. For 20 years, we go out and we do and see people in the most negative times of their lives. And if you don't think that bothers us, it sure as hell bothers me. The majority of the cops that retire with post-traumatic stress disorder, myself included, and I denied it for the longest time. And then finally, I admitted it. And since I admitted it, I can deal with it much better. And I also will help a million cops who think that they don't have it. So, help people. That's what I'm here to do. I'm here to share my experiences. Not the best guy in the world, but sure as hell I'm not the worst.
Actually, I think I should end off with this question. It said, what do you think the most important experience in your life was? Like, was there an experience that changed everything for you?
That's a tough question. I would say having children. I have a son and a daughter, and they definitely change your life. You know, they round you out. They if you can't be rich with a lot of money, be rich in blood, and that's what my children are to me. And now I have grandchildren, and once again I became a different person having little grandchildren. It's just an amazing feeling. I became a big mush. The mean guy I used to be. When my granddaughter picks up one of those make-believe telephones and hands it to me, I answer it and say hello. Love your family. Be around your family. Family is all about family. Get rid of people in your life that don't bring anything to you. Help as many people as you can, and just continue on. We're here for a short time, and I'm 66 years old, and at this stage of the game, I'm losing friends, and it's time to enjoy. Time to enjoy.
All right. Thank you for your time. I'm going to stop recording. We'll talk over the show. Any last words for the audience?
Everybody be safe. God bless. Please get out and vote. Take care of yourself. Take care of others. And, we're in a very, very bad spot in today's world. I don't believe it's Republicans and Democrats and this. I believe it's good and evil. And we're going to have to band together. They're two wings on the same bird, and somehow or another we have to get this all together, because there's a lot of people out there in this world that would like to see us fail, and we have to be Americans. Pray to any God you want to pray to. That's your business, and just stand up and be good.
All right. In 3, 2, 1.